Let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Raza Hyder. And Raza Hyder writes, "Hey, John, Disney announced that they are now starting to prioritize content made for streaming on Disney+. Due to the pandemic, Disney reportedly lost $4.7 billion from a combination of the theatrical releases being postponed and closure of parks. A lot more of that coming from closure of parks. From a business standpoint, I think they're making the right move, but it is sad that the focus on theatrical films will be less. What do you think of this, and could Disney make theatrical films a priority again once the pandemic ends?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, Bob Chapek, the new CEO of Disney, came out and said, and by the way, I already seen some people say that he's deviated from what Bob Iger wanted to do. Bob Iger is still Bob Chapek's boss. Don't forget that. They came out and made this announcement that they did a massive reorganization. And they said plainly that one of the purposes of this reorganization was to put a heavier emphasis on the streaming content. That's not just Disney Plus. It's Disney Plus, and he was very specific to call out Hulu and ESPN Plus. A lot of people keep forgetting that Disney is very, very serious about Hulu. And I'm glad they are. It's an important thing, and I'm glad they're going to be doing that. It's a complicated breakdown, but just to put it into a little bit into context, here's basically what this reorg kind of means, all right? They have now reorganized that their content is being broken into 3 divisions. Divisions they're calling, or at least that Deadline and the Wall Street Journal is calling, movies, which is going to be continued to be headed up by Alan Horn. General entertainment, which is probably going to be television, documentary, all that other kind of stuff, which has a new head of that general stuff. And sports. Of course, they have a heavy investment in sports with ESPN. And of course, their streaming outlet, ESPN Plus. Now, what really makes this different from just a, academic reorganization is the fact that they've created a brand new division, a brand new arm, that they're calling the distribution arm. And basically, what that means is this new arm, this new department will be the department that they decide. Something that the movie division creates, something that the general entertainment division creates, something that the sports division creates. They don't decide where that piece of content they're making is going. Alan Horn, the high lord and guru of all things Disney movies, will not be the one who gets to decide where a movie that he oversees and creates through his Pixar arm, through his Lucasfilm arm, through his MCU arm, through his Disney proper arm, whatever. He's no longer going to be the guy to decide where that goes. It will be decided by the distribution arm. They will be the ones who decide where it goes, and they are going to have a higher priority now to funneling content to their streaming outlets, be it Disney Plus, be it Hulu, or be it ESPN Plus. I think you're about to see a lot of ESPN content diverted to ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting move, but this is not a sudden, nor is this a surprising move. And here's why. A lot of movie fans made the assumption that when Disney bought Fox, they were doing it so they could get X-Men. I mean, that generally was the general feeling amongst movie fans. But a lot of us tried to tell everybody, it's not about X-Men. Disney did not spend $71.2 billion to get the frickin' X-Men. That is not why they spent $71.2 billion. They bought it for 2 letters, my friends. They bought it for IP. They bought it for the intellectual property rights to not just current content, but catalog content and the rights to do things with that catalog content that maybe had not been done before or was not a part of the plans previous to that. This has always been the plan. The plan was that Bob Iger was very, very invested in what was going to be happening with streaming. They bought Fox to acquire an additional massive catalog and a controlling interest in Hulu. which kind of sealed the deal. Because remember, Hulu used to be this thing like a whole bunch of studios used to co-own together. It's now a Disney property, period. It's a Disney property. So what does this mean? For things like Avengers 5, for things like, Star Wars Episode 10, whenever that happens, it doesn't really mean much. The movies that are pretty much guaranteed to earn Disney $1 billion at the box office, they're still going to put into theaters. But it also means that a lot of the content that is more borderline content that would have before gone to, for instance, Ant-Man 3. As of right now, let's just forget the COVID problem right now. Forget COVID. As of today, I don't believe Ant-Man 3 is ever going to see the inside of a movie theater. Because if you really look at the box office rate, the Ant-Man movies, while I very much enjoy them, they are very much near the bottom of money earners, right? As far as how much they make in box office. I don't think this new distribution arm is going to say, let's put this in theaters. I think they're going to say, let's put this on Disney Plus. I think they're going to say this is a prime candidate for a Disney Plus debut. And guess what? Kevin Feige doesn't have a say. And Alan Horn doesn't have a say. It's now this new department that gets to make those priorities. And I think that's what's going to happen. And I think you're going to see a lot of those more middle of the road things. The big massive blockbusters, they're guaranteed to make $1 billion. I don't think that's going to change anything. I don't think it's going to change a thing. Rob, earlier in the show, I brought up the phrase path to victory. What's the path to a win? What can the movie theater see to a path to a win? I'll tell you what, there's a bit fewer paths to victory now for the theaters than there were before now. Because I don't think theaters can survive strictly on the big blockbusters. That's the lion's share of the money they make for sure. But they also rely a lot on those billions of dollars that are made over the course of the year from the smaller films all collectively that come out to fill in the theatrical space. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. But my big fear is this. Here's my big fear. So I'm not surprised, but here's my fear. And I bet you guys have heard me say this for a long time. What we are about to see is the Walmartization. The Walmartization, there, I made up a word for us today, of content. When you walk into Walmart, you don't expect to see the finest brands, the best products. You find things that'll work for you. You'll find the cheap silverware. You'll find the cheap plates. You'll find the cheap living room lamp, And I am a proud Costco, Target, Walmart shopper. That's me. Just look at my fashion sense. I'm not a creme de la creme. But we're going to see, Rob. I've said this for a long time, and will say it even more. As more and more things move to streaming, you're going to see content, the quality of content drop lower and lower and lower. It's going to become more Netflix-like, where it's all about quantity rather than quality. For every one decent original movie that Netflix puts out, there's about 40 pieces of filler garbage that get thrown out there. And while I love The Boys, which is clearly a lower budget show, but they do a great thing with it. But what you're going to start seeing is Disney's like, hey, listen, we're not going to make the $800 million we would have on this if we put it in theaters. It's going to Disney Plus. Therefore, that $175 million budget is now $30 million or is now $5 million. And that is going to become the new normal. For every Lord of the Rings show that's going to have a $10 million per episode budget, for every one of those, we're going to get 50 super low budget, crap filler, put whatever out, because what we lack in quality will make up for in quantity. We've already seen it on Netflix. We're already seeing it on Disney Plus. Disney Plus has gone a year giving us 2 premium pieces of content. And there was Hamilton, that's Mandalorian. Other than that, we've had a year of just a lot of filler. Be Our Chef, Shop Class. The Imagineering thing, some cool stuff, dude. There's been some cool stuff. There has been some cool, but for a year? And that's what it's going to become. And it's a dystopian future, my friends. It is a dystopian future, but maybe Disney can do it differently. Maybe under the leadership of a Bob Iger and now his apprentice, Chapek, maybe they can lead it and make streaming something different. I'm just saying the first year of Disney Plus is not giving me a lot of confidence. But anyway, Rob, big reorganization, not a big surprise. This is why they spent $71.2 billion to acquire Fox in the first place. You hear about this organization, Rob. What are the things that stand out to you?
Well, John, I mean, look, we're now in a situation where my whole life I've loved movies have been my first love, and movies are under siege from many different directions. My beloved physical media is going away. Streaming is taking over the theatrical experience. These are inevitabilities. This is evolution. It's just part of life. However, like you pointed out, the performance of these shows is not necessarily tied anymore on a streaming service the way it is at the box office to money coming in. I mean, obviously, these streaming services want to get more subscribers. But when you have a monthly subscription base, Disney Plus is up to 60 million subscribers. That means they can figure out how much each new piece of content is worth based on the number of subscribers they have. Like, okay, we put this out and we got this many more subscribers and all that. But for the most part, shows are not necessarily performance based. It's the whole platform that's performance based, not just individual pieces of content. Whereas at the box office, individual pieces of content are absolutely performance based. Endgame, one movie makes $3 billion. That's a big deal. So with streaming services, if the theatrical experience goes away, that performance-based return is no longer, it doesn't exist. You don't have a $3 billion grossing Endgame anymore, because if it's on a streaming service, it doesn't matter whether you spend $1 million on something, $10 million, or $300 million, it might all get the same amount of viewers. So it's not necessarily tied to cost and the benefits of spending $350 million to make an Endgame or something brings you $3 billion at the box office. When that is gone, like you pointed out, why spend a lot of money on content? There's no reason to anymore, because it's not performance based. So although viewers are going to expect to see those lush production values in MCU movies, there's no justification to do it anymore. And I think that, I feel that will all be diminished. One of the reasons that the MCU is as successful as it is because you get a pretty consistent, amazing series of production values throughout those movies that make them so much fun to watch. The airport scene in Civil War, you ain't going to get that, or at least not as well as it was done in that movie, if it's only going to be on streaming. And that's a bummer. That content is no longer, people can't dream big, as Tom Hardy said in Inception. You have to dream bigger, darling. Well, if all content's going to be streaming, dreaming bigger isn't going to help you. You have to figure out how to dream within a budget. And where's the fun in that? So I don't know. I mean, like you said, it's what's happening, and we have to adapt or die. But I think it's bleak, dude. I'm not optimistic about all this.
See,
although,
go ahead.
Oh, maybe, certain filmmakers thrive under creative limitations. And as technology increases and we have things like Lucasfilm stagecraft technology, maybe that more creative applications of that technology can make sure that we aren't going to lose the kind of spectacle that we're used to. At least that's what I would hope.
One of the things that we can't forget is that, look, I still think every once in a while, like for instance, Amazon Prime we already mentioned this Lord of the Rings show that they're doing, right? Apple TV is like putting out $200 million for, of course, Apple can buy and sell Disney 15 times over. So whatever, but they're putting $200 million into the Martin Scorsese thing, right? We will still get the odd thing. Like there will still, once every 6 months, we'll still get the odd, really big balls to the wall, going all out kind of spectacle blockbuster. But like a year like 2019, We're never going to have that again. And what a lot of people forget is that, you articulated it so perfectly, Rob. When you now have a subscriber base and you get that money coming from subscriber base, now it's just about keep them satisfied, and let's keep pushing the bar lower to see how far low we can push the bar before we start losing them as consumers, right? And so it's going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And what a lot of people forget is that, like, Netflix is as many, 150 million subscribers around the world or something like that. It's crazy. Everybody forgets. They actually look at the last financial reports that got put out. They spend more money every year than they make.
Yeah.
Like right now, Netflix spends, and it's hard to imagine, but everybody forgets how expensive it is to run one of these things. Netflix, and this is not good business, they spend more money than they make. And that's not a model that can survive long term. At some point, you have to start turning that thing around. And you pointed out, Rob, the best way it's going to happen is that these places are going to have to get attention. But for every Mandalorian, you got to make sure everything else is mega cheap. Everything else costs almost nothing to make, And I fear, I'm not saying it, I'm not guaranteeing this is what's going to happen. I hope it doesn't. I just fear that that's where we're heading because we're already sort of seeing signs of that, right? We're already seeing signs of that. So it'll be interesting. But again, a lot of faith in Bob Iger, a lot of faith in what Disney has been able to do. And if they can do this differently and set a model that other streaming services can say, hey, there's a way to do super high quality content and loosen up the purse strings and spend money on it and make money. If anybody's going to be able to find that way to do it, it's going to be Bob Iger. Bob Iger will be the one to do it. So I'm just nervous, Rob. I'm just completely nervous. Anyway, question is for you guys. What do you think about this big reorg? Maybe you were caught by surprise. Maybe, like a lot of us, when you saw Disney buy Fox, you knew the writing was on the wall. How do you feel about this right now? What do you think the long-term implications are going to be? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.
Hey,
yes.
There's some breaking news.
Oh, breaking news. What do we got?
Mad Max spinoff. Furiosa in the works at Warner's with George Miller directing, Anya Taylor-Joy in the title role, Chris Hemsworth, and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II along for the ride.
They discussed that. We talked about it on the show that it looked like they were going to move it forward to Furiosa, but they were going to try to get a younger Furiosa.
This dropped while the show has been going on.
Who'd they go with? Anya Taylor-Joy?
Anya Taylor-Joy, who
she
I love.
She was just in New Mutants, right?
New Mutants. I love her.
I wonder how people are going to react to it not being Charlize Theron, though. Because that's the Furiosa everybody fell in love with.
I know.
It's going to be curious to see.
But that's a pretty great cast. I mean,
it's fantastic.
Yahya Abdul-Mateen, he's killing it, winning Emmy Awards. He's being a ton of.
I feel like every other movie that gets announced, his name is popping up. Like
and
this
Chris
dude's.
Hemsworth?
I know, but I want to know who this guy's.
Manta?
I want to know who this guy's agent is because he is getting him all the movies at this point. Well, we'll talk more about this obviously on the show tomorrow, but that's a good one. A lot to read in there, so that's good. They're moving forward with Furiosa, but it's not going to be with Charlize Theron. Interesting.
And he's brought back his entire team that won Academy Awards for Fury Road. The production designer, the editor, the sound mixer, and the makeup designer. And so that's pretty cool.
What a gorgeous film that was. That was a gorgeous film. Like just beautiful to look at. All right. With that down, guys.